Please welcome Encounter Resources Limited Managing Director Will Robertson from Encounter. Is advancing a large portfolio of copper and critical minerals projects in WA and Northern Territory, including the 100% owned Aileron project in emerging West Arunta province. Separately, Encounter has a major funded copper project partnerships with leading miners BHP, South32 and IGO.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks to the Diggers Organising Committee for inviting me to speak today to tell you about something, primarily about a story that's happening in the West Arunta region in Western Australia as a new potential critical minerals province emerges. Now, the company's been around for a while. We've had a very stable board. I won't go into that. We've had good support from IGO and Silver Lake Resources over the last 5 years as we've embarked on greenfields exploration in Central Australia, where we're looking for copper and critical minerals in the vast underexplored areas of Central Australia, primarily in Northern Territory and Western Australia. And the main drivers behind the strategy that we put together are John Wronski and Peter Buick, two of the finest geological minds, and they come up with lots and lots of ideas, and we've established an enormous portfolio of projects. I won't talk to you about many of them today, but I'll touch on the West Arunta and some of the work that's being done by our partners BHP, South32 and IGO. They've got a terrific team underneath them, and it's an expanding team very rapidly with what's happening on the ground. So this is our business model. We move very quickly on new government data sets. And I will say at this point, one of the things that Australia does particularly well is pre-competitive data from the government surveys. And I think about the work that's been done by Geoscience Australia in the Exploring for the Future program across the northern part of Australia, the work that the GSWA does in Western Australia and the Northern Territory Geological Survey, how much they get out of a small budget to assist explorers like us go into new regions and do drilling. We move very quickly onto them. We've established a very large portfolio in the Northern Territory. I think we're one of the largest exploration landholders in the Territory. We're one of the early movers into the Paterson province. And then we set about how are we going to best fund this activity. Now, the market, as we know, can be a bit up and down for exploration, and particularly greenfields exploration. And we set about to say we need $5 to $10 million a year going into the ground from our partners. And we've got three pretty high calibre partners that are funding work on our projects. Last year, between the three of them, they funded over $7 million, and I think that number will be higher this year as both IGO and South32 have kicked off diamond drill programs at their respective projects in the last month. What I'm going to talk about today, though, is the West Arunta and what's happening out there near the Western Australian Northern Territory border. It's a 100% owned project, and we're rapidly moving towards a drill program that's going to start in the next couple of weeks, following the successful diamond drill program that we've announced the first completed drill hole of that program this morning. So you can see it's a very remote location, right in the middle of the Western Australian NT border, but it's the sort of place where you can go where, quite frankly, from an exploration perspective, there was not an exploration drill hole in our tenure before we got there. Now look, this is that's the camp that we've set up, and Starlink, which is doing a fabulous job, a game changer from communications. There's not a lot of interference and without sharing the bandwidth out there, but it's really enabled us to get into a remote location. We've got this terrific team that can get out to areas that are very underexplored and deliver drill programs. We first pegged our first tenement out here back in 2019, and we've been building the position for some time. We've done major regional geophysical surveys, both gravity, magnetics and radiometrics, and they've really lit up this region. And we kicked off a diamond drill program in May this year, and we've drilled 6 diamond drill holes, and we've drilled a new niobium rare earth carbonatite over 3.5 kilometres in that first drill program, with RC drilling about to kick off in the next couple of weeks. So I'm showing here a magnetic image. The scale gets a little bit lost here. That's 140 kilometres east to west, and there was not a drill hole in that in our tenure prior to us being here. Those two magnetic anomalies have been the key focus of our initial exploration. I think the other thing one of the other things I'd notice here is those major regional structures. They are fundamentally important to what's going on out here, and it's not difficult to see them. And those two magnetic anomalies at Hoskie and Crean are sitting on what we're calling the Elephant Island Fault, a major structure in the region. We've got WA1's Looney discovery to our south, a tremendous niobium discovery. It's shaping up and heading towards being the best, highest grade, undeveloped niobium deposit in the world. And that's just to our south, once again sitting on a major structure. Understanding the regional architecture and the amount of work and time and effort that we've invested in the regional exploration, the regional geophysical surveys, I should say, has been fundamental to getting us to this point. So I'm just going to zoom in on that Hoskie Crean area. So between those two areas, about 3.5 kilometres, and just show you this was I guess the genesis of what's emerging here. The first drill hole, EAL 001. We drilled into a hydrothermal magnetite zone. We were testing a magnetic feature. We wanted to push that drill hole out into the Elephant Island Fault. In the Elephant Island Fault, we hit a 16-metre zone of carbonatites in that hole. We immediately, once we'd observed that, we cut that core, we flew it off-site, we got it assayed, and it came back at about 16 metres at 0.6% niobium and 0.2% rare earth. It was a proof of concept. The hole was targeting this magnetic anomaly sitting above it. We were able to get a structural reading off that to see that it's heading east-west. We only had 9 drill sites that were cleared for heritage at this point. We stepped over to EAL 008, and then we drilled through 69 metres at 0.8% niobium and 0.5% rare earths. That's the face of Sarah Jones, one of our exploration managers. That's what a talented geologist looks like when she's just drilled through the oxidised enriched position above a carbonatite and looking at the spoil piles. Sarah and Mark have done a terrific job with their team to get us to this point out here in a very remote, very difficult place to operate. We then stepped another 1.5 kilometres further to the east to EAL 007. So 2 kilometre step out first time, another 1.5 kilometre step out the second time. This time we've drilled through this, we came into the carbonatite at about 65 metres and we didn't come out of it. We stopped the hole at 346 metres, still in the carbonatite. Those assays are going to be back in early September, but from what we're seeing here, the scale of this opportunity is just enormous. It's completely open to the east and pretty much in every direction. As Peter Buick said, when we'd stepped out the first 2 kilometres and we hit it again, and then we stepped out another 1.5 kilometres again, he said, either we're really, really good shots or this has got some serious width and strike to it. And I think that's what we're working on now, that this region seems to be developing an enormous amount of carbonatites in the small amount of drilling that's been done to date. So one of the other things now that we've established that this can produce both grade up to 3 to sort of 5% niobium and 1 to 2% rare earths, and scale is the next big question is going to be metallurgy, and we'll be kicking off a metallurgical study next month. That's just this core scan from Portable Spectral Services, and the purple there showing the coarse grain nature of the niobium that we're seeing in the drill core. It's still very early days, but that is a positive for potential treatment options, and we'll be getting that work done between now and Christmas so that it can shape our drill program in 2024. So the next steps, that 3.5 kilometre long zone between Hoskie and Crean, where we've drilled the 3 of our 6 holes that we've drilled so far in this belt of drilled carbonatites. It's now we'll be doing an RC drill program kicking off in the next couple of weeks. It'll be a series of north-south traverses. Firstly, to establish some continuity of the near-surface enriched mineralisation that we've seen at Crean, and then we'll be stepping out to Hurley and Wild and Green to do a series of reconnaissance north-south RC drill lines. Now, the success in this program is establishing continuity of the near-surface enriched material, mapping out what the carbonatite might look like at Crean, and getting a successful result at one of the other Hurley, Wild, Crean or Caird drill programs that we're going to complete. It's going to be a really exciting time. We're going to get as much information as we possibly can between now and the end of this field season, and then kick off with more infrastructure, a bigger team, and have a really good crack at it in 2024. Now, this is just a small part of a very large project. So what we've been dealing with is those Hosky-Creen anomalies over there on the left-hand side of the image. This was one of the largest falcon surveys ever commissioned by a junior. This was a major 100-kilometre wide, about 30 kilometres north-south, 300-metre space falcon survey in an area where there was very little information. When we're looking for mineralised carbonatites and IOCGs, having really good gravity data is important. And people ask me, didn't you come out here looking for IOCGs? And the answer is yes, and we are still convinced that the IOCG potential of this region is very real. Just because we've found some carbonatites in the belt actually enhances the potential. You're seeing these structures are deep structures, they've tapped the mantle, and the potential for IOCG mineralisation in a belt that we've done some age dating on to say this is the same age rocks as the granites and the events that happened in South Australia, but we're dealing with 5 to 10 metres of cover, not 500 metres of cover. This gravity survey, amazing. It obviously gave us a lot of understanding around the structural architecture in the west of the project, and 2 6-milligale gravity anomalies popped out on the eastern side of the survey. Now they are sitting on major structures. That sort of 6 milligale anomalies, that's the sort of anomalies or stronger anomalies than they saw at Carapatina or Prominent Hill. They've got structural context. Once you get up to that sort of strength of anomaly, the sort of geological explanations for them start to become quite limited, and hematite alteration and carbonatites could be too. So we've just done a heritage survey 2 weeks ago. We're looking to push a track out to those anomalies. We'll do some surface sampling this year and look to drill them early in 2024. So that's the program that's coming up. When you're in a new belt, we're going to be trialling surface geochemistry, major program that's kicked off this week. That RC drill program, we expect that to kick off. There'll be 80 to 100 holes within the next couple of weeks. We'll get assays back from that EAL007 carbonatite, 282 metres that we're still waiting on. We'll get out to those eastern targets. We're going to do the metallurgical test work, and then we'll start to see assay results from the RC programs right up to Christmas. Now, I won't spend too much time on the niobium market. It's a $5 billion a year market. It's a critical mineral for Australia, United States, European Union and Japan. It makes steel lighter and stronger, which has all sorts of implications from a Scope 3 emissions perspective. And some of the battery technologies that they're developing are having super fast charging times and significant lower fire risk. So that's an area to look at. But the niobium market itself is a fascinating space. Controlled by 3 operating mines in the world, and 2 of them in Brazil controlling about 95% of supply. There is actually some copper in that carbonatite as well, which we reported. And the potential of this region to host copper in a carbonatite like Palabora is still there, absolutely, when we're seeing copper in the carbonatites, albeit at low levels. So we've got a major portfolio of farming projects that are going on in parallel, BHP, South 32 and IGO. This is our land position in the Northern Territory, over 30,000 square kilometres. About a third of it is held 100%, and we'll be pursuing that very aggressively in the upcoming years, leveraging off the success we've had in the West Arunta into these new regions in Northern Territory. South 32 have kicked off a 6,500 metre diamond drill program at Jessica and Carrara. All 3 of our partners are using seismic processing and seismic technologies to map some of these sedimentary basins to look for base metals and copper. And it's really fascinating stuff that they're doing. And the sort of cutting edge explorations, new belts where there's been no exploration before, and success for them would be pretty significant for us. So that's the wrap up. Major exploration going on for us. Obviously in the Aileron project, we'll be diamond drilling at Sandover in the Northern Territory, 100% owned project between now and Christmas. We've got about 10,000 metres of diamond drilling being done by 2 of our partners over the next 4 months. BHP's just finished a soil program. We think we're the start of an exploration boom in Central Australia. We think the West Arunta is just going to be one of many areas where people are going to go to places where people haven't been before, apply new technologies and make new mineral discoveries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Will.